All right, we're going to blitz through this one today, guys. Man, I got to try to recover in time for the show with Brew tomorrow. I'm a disaster. Ladies and gentlemen, put me out of my misery. I'm an injured horse right now, friends. I don't know, Brandon. I don't know, man. I was just telling a story about you yesterday. I don't know if you watched yesterday's show. I was telling a story about how you asked me if I was dying when I got sick from my kids all the time, but now you got one. I bet that joint is happening to you too. I've been doing pretty well, actually, lately. I don't know. They got me. This week's been a tough one. It was really relegated to the throat. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it started. Yesterday, it started to move a little bit. Today, it's just like all right through here. I'm a faucet. Make the bad man stop. There we go. Let's get this thing started. Do I prefer fries or onion rings? I'm a French fry man. Onion rings are a little... I mean, they're good, but yeah, give me classic French fries. And you know what? I'll do you one better. I'll give you my favorite French fry. It's not a big surprise. I mean, McDonald's is number one. But how about here? Secret excellent French fry. Del Taco. You wouldn't think it, right? But they got really good French fries there. And then, Chick-fil-A's got those really nice waffle fry, crinkle cut waffle fries, whatever they want to call them there. Those are pretty good. Not a big onion rings guy. Big Al has been meh lately. I'm so sick of the Big Al hate. I'm going to go postal. Yeah, he's fine, guys. He's number 72 per game. He gets his back-to-backs off, and he'll have a good game, then he'll have kind of a quiet game. The beauty of Big Al is that his quiet games, he doesn't hurt you still. His quiet games are like what we saw yesterday, which is like 6-4-4 or something. What the hell did he have? I'll pull it up on the screen. Oh, 9-5-3 was actually a little bit better than that, with 3 3-pointers. If he had a block or a steal in yesterday's game, he would have had a totally fine line. It would have been really close to what he averages on the season. That's the power of just not being bad at anything. But Big Al doesn't score. I need everybody to just get over the fact that he doesn't score. Look at the fact that he has multiple 3-pointers from a big man spot. He has 2 3-pointers a game while still shooting almost 48%, 6 boards, 3 assists, half a block or half a steal and a block. And he never turns the ball over. This is Big Al. And every once in a while, he's going to pop off and he's going to have a great one. And that's going to push him up 15 slots on the rank board. And then he's going to have a few quieter ones where he falls, 1 or 2 slots per game. But he very rarely has a total disaster game because you weren't relying on him to score anyway. Jason, I think you gave me credit for trying to change the nomenclature yesterday. Do you foresee Jabari Smith Jr. improving in the near future? That is, ever getting threes on a regular basis again? If not, who is a realistic trade option for him? Nobody really. He's a rookie stash and kind of has been from the outset. Rookies just take a while to figure things out, and that's what's happening. Young dude doesn't have the thickness for the NBA yet. That's thickness, not fitness. He's perfectly fit, but he's a slender dude. He'll start to fill out. He'll get stronger. He'll be able to get easier shots. I mean, he actually has a pretty good fantasy profile if he fixes the percentages a little bit, because there's steals, there's blocks, there's boards. There's actually a lot to like. I wouldn't trade him away now. You've rode him through what I would venture to say is the hardest part of the year for him, which is, for all rookies, the first half plus, basically. Should I drop Naz Reid for Drew Eubanks? Probably. It felt like Rudy Gobert was just kind of taking a day off. He's been playing through a groin thing. Naz is a spot starter, and Eubanks is probably going to have a few games in a row here. And I flashed this question up on the screen before the show started. Yeah, I mean, Phoenix sucked yesterday. That whole team was god-awful except for Mikal Bridges. I got spanked. They got worked over. Those are the 5 questions. There you go. Yep. That's what I tried to, yeah. Brew, too. I told Brewski, and he and I will talk on tomorrow's show. I've been trying to convince them to, not that my opinion has anything to do with what they're doing. I've been like quietly, not that quietly, actually, yelling at Brew, get your kid into preschool. Do it, do it, do it. It's gonna open up your mornings. It's gonna change the way you exist. But also know that the first 3 months there in either preschool or daycare, you're gonna catch every cold that ever existed all at once. His kid was in school for what, 2-3 days before getting sick? Like literally the fastest you could catch a cold. 2-ish days to incubate. Boom, nailed him. And it doesn't go away for a while because I'm still getting them. Although, again, I think this is only my second one. This is the only second cold that I've caught this kind of cold flu season. My kids have had like 5. My wife has caught almost all of them. This is only the second one I got from the kids. I think I'm powering up. Anyway, that's our 5 questions at the front end. Let me get the recording software booted up here. This is a promo-free show. I'm dying over here, guys. So we're just going to try to muscle our way through it. And there's my Twitter handle there. I don't know how many of you are watching that are new to the YouTube stuff we're doing, but please do. YouTube was trying to hide one particular comment. Let me see if I can get it to show up now, or if it's gone forever. Oh, that's disappointing. So in StreamYard, if YouTube thinks something is spam and you unhide it, it still doesn't allow me to put it up on the screen. It was that was Andy Walken saying, give this sick man a like and a subscribe. Andy's right. Please do like and subscribe. But I'm only going to yell at you guys about that 1, maybe 2 times on today's show. I don't have the juice, man. We got a recap we got to get through. We got to spend 5 minutes talking about Drew Eubanks. It's coming, man. Anyway, I'm going to boot up my recording software. We'll put a little countdown in, and I'm going to snurgle in your ear all day long. So listen to the music for a sec. I'll be right back. Oh, my God. Ooh. Dance, slurp, burp, break, dance, swerp, burp, shake, dance, slurp, burp, break, dance, burp, swerp, shake, dance, slurp, burp, break, dance, swerp, earthquake. All right, you guys got to listen to the end of the song. Congratulations. Now I'm turning it on. 5, 4. Welcome one and welcome all to this sick guy edition of Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. I will not let the Iron Man streak come to an end, not at the hands of a cold. Something a little bigger is going to have to come get me. Not that I'm daring something. Please don't. I'm beat up right now, everybody. I'm getting walloped. The cold has moved. You guys know how that works. It gravitates from one area of your body to another. It was like that first Monday, Tuesday, I just sort of felt off. I like to say to my wife when I have that, I say my stasis is off. I don't have my homeostasis anymore. And I thought maybe it was just because I was overtired because, 2 kids. We don't get rest around here. But then on Wednesday, all of a sudden, you got that tickle, or maybe it was late Tuesday. You got that tickle towards the back of the throat. And I'm going, uh-oh, this is it, isn't it? Please go away. Please just be a guy who talked too much on a broadcast. Nope. So yesterday it was all through the throat. My throat was just a wreck. And you could hear it starting to chew away at my vocal cords. Today, and honestly, I think I kind of prefer this, which is weird. It's more annoying, but it's less painful. The throat pain is largely gone, although I am on Tylenol and Advil, so that probably has something to do with it. But the cold has now gravitated, and it is straight up in my face. My nose is pouring. My eyes are actually kind of like watery and a little drippy. I know, it's a rough one for your old pal Dan. My sinuses are obviously popped. I got to take my kid to elementary school this morning. and I have to kind of drive through some hills to get there. And by the time we got to school, my ears were just so popped and exploded that I almost called in sick on walking my kid up to kindergarten. Now everybody stay away from me. Get away. Get away from the germ guy. Actually, I think the music might still be going. Um, that is for the live studio audience or whatever you want to call it. Hello, one and all. And I say that because we've got the simulcast going today. I'm sorry, folks. I'm having a little trouble keeping my thoughts straight. I'm loopy as hell. But we're gonna get through this thing. Have a laugh at my expense. That's all I ask of you. I still watched all the games I could yesterday, and I'm still doing the work. But I'm loopy as hell. We got the recorded pod listeners. We got the live YouTube audience. I'm going to not yell anything at anybody other than to just keep saying, if you guys are interested in covering a team with us, please do let me know. I think there's been 4, 5, or 6 of you that have kind of heard what it's going to take and have still said that it's a thing you want to do. And it'd be really cool for us to add. I think we might be adding 3 or 4 more football team coverages, another 1 or 2 basketball teams come into the mix. So we're filling up here. And honestly, that's kind of my dream, is to get every big league team covered with a podcast, because you'll be working with me. You'll be working with David Williams, host of our Memphis Grizzlies show, one of the hosts of our Memphis Grizzlies show, as we kind of get you guys up off the ground, and then with an end goal of basically being a credentialed member of NBA or baseball or NFL media and get you in the arena or on the field or whatever, venue you want to be talking about there. But let's just go ahead and dive on in, because well, first of all, follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, whether you're live viewer or recorded viewer. We continue to do a crap ton of stuff over on social media. I would also like to throw out there that overnight, I passed the 16,000 follower threshold, thanks to all of you. So I am going to be giving out a copious number of prizes today of various shapes and sizes. Most of them will be different memberships here at Sports Ethos, Fantasy Pass, DFS Pass, Wager Pass, maybe a bundle. So today's the day to go find me on social media. I'll be sending out a tweet at some point, probably just after lunchtime Pacific, with what it's going to take to sort of be a part of the contest. But I'll tell you right now, it ain't going to be that hard. It'll probably be something as simple as liking and tagging someone, maybe even easier than that. I don't know. It'll be extremely straightforward. It will require very little effort on your part, and the payoff will be a bunch of prizes. It's not going to be like one winner. I'm going to do a bunch. Maybe I'll do 16 frickin' winners for 16,000. I haven't decided yet. Whatever I'm doing it off the cuff. I'm flying by the edge of my seat. But enough flying, because my head is already floating off into the clouds on various cold medicines. Let's talk about what happened yesterday. What the hell happened yesterday, said the sick guy who's having trouble with his eyes focusing on things. Philly beat Orlando 105-94. We're going to really, okay, so again, another warning on today's show. It's not going to be a long one. Yesterday, I think we went, 30 some odd minutes? We might not make it that far today. I'm sniffling, I'm snuffling, and honestly, just, I got to get through this thing. Yesterday, I needed to kind of lie down because like my chest and upper body were hurting. Today, I'm going to need to get off the show so that like physically boogers don't fall onto my microphone. And the live YouTube audience, man, you guys are in for a real treat if that goes down. Woo-wee. All right, no massive surprises in Philly, Orlando. Jalen Suggs had a better ball game, but nobody cared. Wendell Carter Jr. played through a sore plantar fascia, and I did care because I had one eye on Mo Wagner in case WCJ needed to miss any time. DeAnthony Melton had a bad ball game on the Philly side. Tyrese Maxey had a bad ball game as well. I thought maybe you'd see a little bit more Melton there, but they went George Niang, who was a plus 17 in that ball game. So, kudos to Doc Rivers. I'd love to just say play Melton over and over again, but he was bad yesterday. And he went to the guy who was helping them. Floor space a little bit, but also Niang just played well. He's not an ad by any stretch. Melton's a guy I'm holding on to for a number of reasons. The biggest one being on the Roto side, maybe you kind of hold off and you play him when somebody's out. If you wanted to, I'm okay with that. Head to head, I think you can play him pretty much every day because someone is often out, and that elevates him to a consistently playable weekly number. The other thing that I haven't talked about all that much on the podcast is Tyrese Maxey. You guys might remember that I was sort of quietly not into Maxey during draft season, and it wasn't because I don't like his fantasy game. It was because I didn't believe that he could match last year's field goal percent. And indeed, that has been one of the big things to taper off for him. Both, I think all percentages are kind of down for Maxey. Now, could that level off the rest of this year? It could. He was hurt for a very long time, so he's kind of going through another acclimation process. But they're also kind of turning him into something else, which is that bench gunner role. And that's going to mean relatively high volume, but nothing really to kind of keep him in check with that high volume. Even within here at Sports Ethos, I was lower, and I didn't want to ruffle feathers because I knew some of our other very, very sharp folks were higher on him. So I just kind of quietly said, it's not a guy that I'm really targeting this year. And he's been a little underwhelming. Forget the injury for a minute, because that could happen to anybody. A lot of the guys that we had that were having successful seasons are injured right now or have been. I'm thinking more along the lines of just the efficiency handicap. And it's why it's one of those things where, like, trying to figure out if something is a flash in the pan or reality is really hard. I think me and a number of other folks, we got it wrong on Keldon Johnson. His efficiency bump towards the end of last year didn't hold. Some of that was moving back to small forward. That's been annoying for him. And some of it is just what's a mirage and what's real. Portland-Memphis, this game had a couple of storylines. Storyline number one, Xavier Tillman got the start, most likely to deal with Jusuf Nurkic, who then left the ball game 3 minutes in. And then it seemed like the Grizzlies were going to probably slide into more of a timeshare, but Brandon Clark picked up 3 fouls in 5 minutes in the first half, which he didn't pick up any fouls the rest of the way, which was good. So he did get a dozen minutes in the second half, and that's more than enough for him. 12 minutes per half would absolutely get the job done for Brandon Clark. But if you're looking at the previous ball game and the beginning of this one, Clark had 8 fouls in 18 game minutes. So if you're wondering why he had a little dip here, that's why. That's Scott Pollard-esque foul frequency. I still like Brandon Clark over Tillman. I think they're going to mix and match a little bit here. I think Memphis, if I recall, we were talking about on a show, maybe Tuesday's show, they have another big man coming up in their next ball game, and then they pivot back into some more running teams. So you might see Tillman get another start. You might see it flip back and forth. Would I pick up Tillman on head-to-head? I think the answer is probably, because, again, if you find a good scheduling spot, that's where that makes sense. It's not somebody that you're like going to play the whole time Steven Adams is out, but if you can look at the schedule and kind of grade it out, find where Memphis is going to take on some bigger teams. They got the Cavs. I didn't look it up. It popped back into my drug-addled brain right now. That's a huge team. That's like prototypical. You're going to see Tillman there. So he makes a lot of sense in their next ball game. I don't remember who they have after that, but I remember it being somebody smaller. Then you probably see it pivot back the other way. In Roto, I probably start Clark every game because he can rack up stats so very fast. For Tillman on Roto, I start when he's starting. It's a little more simple, I guess. Start when he starts. And then on Portland, I don't want to bury the lead here. Drew Eubanks is the ad. He played 24 minutes. He'll probably be in the 27, 28-minute range while Nurkic is out. He had 5 fouls in 24 minutes, so that contributed a little bit to his numbers being depressed. Also, he's just not a guy that they're going to consistently dole out 30 minutes to unless he's earning it in a given ball game. Typically, he does, because Eubanks is a high-energy, slightly better defender than Nurkic. Not as good offensively, but with the way that Dame has been playing lately, they haven't needed Nurk on offense. They need someone who can actually go try to stop somebody on the other side. Interesting twist, by the way. These two teams shot the exact same field goal percent. Portland had 5 more three-pointers and made more of their free throws, which actually were almost a dead heat also, 27 and 28. Pretty weird box score from this ball game. So you're picking up Drew Eubanks. Nurk re-aggravating a calf injury that he probably shouldn't have come back from anyway. He's almost definitely going to kind of go the Bradley Beal route now and miss a few ball games. We don't know how many. I would guess a week, maybe 2. Calves are weird, though. And we just keep seeing this stuff where players try to play through the soft tissue things. Devin Booker knocked himself out for a month. Beal knocked himself out for a couple weeks. Now Nurk is probably going to knock himself out for a week or 2. Enjoy the Eubanks run. There is actually a non-zero, but also not gigantic possibility that Nurkic gets moved at the deadline. It's not an easy contract, so don't get me wrong. This is like a 3 to 5% chance. But if Portland likes what they look like without him, then he might start to get phased out, and they might try to unload to a team that maybe needs a little more offense out of the center spot, but isn't as reliant or maybe has better defense around the center spot that Portland simply doesn't have. Josh Hart was terrible. He was good in his previous ball game. He's a hold. It wasn't there in this one. Dame had 8 rebounds. So, those generally are ones that go to Josh Hart. Anthony Simons is going to get more shots. Jeremy Grant clunked his head and had to leave early with concussion protocol stuff. I don't know how long he's going to be out. We just can't know because concussions vary in shapes and sizes, and hopefully he gets back soon. There really isn't an obvious ad there. Trendon Watford probably picks up the minutes, but I don't think he does enough fantasy-wise to hit 12-teamers. Boston, Brooklyn, you can just throw this one out. Boston won by 43. This ballgame was over by the end of the first quarter, really, and it's frankly kind of amazing that anybody hit 30 minutes on either side. And Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Kyrie Irving did. So thank your lucky stars if you manage to have Jason Tatum, who posted a bunch of numbers in his 29 minutes, or any of those guys who touched 30, because everybody else struggled to put up numbers. Horford, who I already talked about on our the pre-show on YouTube. There's so much anger at Big Al, but this is actually not a bad ball game, considering it was over by early in the third quarter. Time Lord looked good, though. 16-9 with a block on 7 of 8 shooting and 2 of 2 free throws. He's going to come around. We always knew it was going to be a slog with him, but I think he's up in the... Where the hell's Time Lord now? Has he moved himself up into like the 70 range? 67. Robert Williams, number 67 right now. And climbing. He's only a 1.2 blocks per game. Just infinite upside with that dude. Anywho, let's keep trucking. Like I said, we're going to move fast, and I'm not going to deep dive that ball game. Minnesota beat Golden State in overtime. There is an expectation now that with the Warriors on a back-to-back, they might give most of the regulars off. We shall see. We shall see. This is something the Warriors were able to do earlier in the season when it seemed like things were going to be okay. They're in the 7 seed right now, which feels comfortable, but they're 1 game up on being out of the playoffs altogether. The Blazers are 25-26. The Warriors are 26-25. Thunder are a game back of the Blazers. Lakers are a half game back of the Thunder. They're just like, there really isn't time anymore for teams to dick around. It feels like the top 4 in the West are beginning to separate themselves in some way. The Nuggets are way out in front. The Grizzlies have been dealing with injury stuff, but they're hanging in there in that 2 seed. The Kings zooming along. I could see them fall to the 4 or the 5 before this is all done, but to me, it feels like they're comfortably above the play-in for now. And the Clippers, who are healthy for the moment, knock on wood, are a cut above a lot of these other teams. The Mavericks, I've said it before on this show, to me, they're kind of a paper tiger. If Luka doesn't have a great ball game, they lose. The Wolves have been playing better, and frankly, they're a team that should have been better this year. So it's not a massive surprise to see them getting a little bit in the right direction, but they could fall back if something doesn't click right. Warriors have been hit or miss all year. Injury stuff, yes, because Steph was out for a while, but a lot of it is just hangover. Suns are getting healthy. They'll move up the board. They're one of the teams that I think you could see slide up towards that top 5 as Booker comes back. They're targeting, by the way, first thing next week for Devin Booker. That was a piece of news that dropped yesterday in the evening. Pelicans, will they get healthy? I don't know. Like, Zion is obviously the engine for that team. We've seen it now with him out. They've been quite awful with no Zion. And I don't expect him back super quickly here. His body just isn't built for it. Blazers, this is very much where they belong. Jazz, Thunder, Lakers are an interesting one because you've actually seen them Lakers look kind of good lately, which is not okay. I got to choose my words more carefully. They haven't looked good, but they've looked better than this cluster of teams that they're in by basically taking some of the best teams in basketball to the final shot. And then we all know the storyline there. So all that to say, yeah, I don't know. It's still early in the day. We the report from Anthony Slater suggested that the Warriors will probably rest their guys, but after losing in Minnesota, does that change the outlook a little bit? Because you're basically saying, all right, well, I guess we're okay with losing another one and falling back to 500. But I mean, look, like who else plays today? I don't even remember who's on the damn docket for the ball games tonight. Thursday, it's a bigger Thursday than usual, so it's not the typical tiny card. But the Lakers are going tonight. Dallas, New Orleans are going tonight. Who else is in that cluster that's playing this evening? I think those are the teams that are playing right around them. So, like, if the Warriors lose and the Pelicans win, the Warriors fall to the 10 seed, a half game up. Can they risk it? Our old friend Vince here on the show used to tell me you have to risk it to get the biscuit. Anyway, I've gone off the rails here. If the Warriors rest everybody, you know it's going to be a Jordan Poole mega fest. Dante DiVincenzo would likely be worth a one-game stream. Kevon Looney would probably be worth a one-game stream. And if you really want to get a little weird with it, Jonathan Kuminga and Anthony Lamb might also be on the table. But that's the fantasy one-night stand we've talked about. Minnesota. Slow-mo missed 4 of his 5 free throws, which derailed what was otherwise a brilliant slow-mo line. But you're not doing anything with it. And I've told you a bunch of times on Jaden McDaniels, he's just going to always teeter right on the edge of doing enough. But I lean towards generally starting him and holding him. And then you got the Naz Reid fill-in stuff. 24, 13, and 4. If he doesn't get into foul trouble, Naz Reid is one of the best per-minute producers in basketball. So anytime Rudy Gobert sits, he's an obvious choice. I had a bunch of folks that were kind of doubting Naz Reid because last time Gobert missed, 2 or 3 ball games. Naz kept getting into foul trouble, and someone tweeted at me that Nathan Knight was better. I was like, come on, guys. Like, just, you don't even have to watch the game live to see, oh, Naz Reid, like 18 minutes, 5 fouls. It's so very clear. Houston beat Oklahoma City. This was, for a Thunder team that is not tanking this year. They're way out in front of the tanking team. So it's too late for them on that regard, which, by the way, it should be good news if you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on your fantasy team. I don't think they're going to shut him down. He'll probably get his rest days every once in a blue moon, but he's in there, and he's number 4 on a per-game basis this year. So just enjoy it, and he hasn't really shown much in the way of slowdown. As far as the other stuff with the Thunder, it's a little bit of a roulette wheel. Jalen Williams, I thought we were going to get Jeremiah Robinson Earl back. They recalled him from the G League, but he still didn't play, so we didn't get that data point yet. So you're still playing Giddey. You're still playing Jalen Williams. Kenny Hustle had a better ball game. That's Kenrich Williams, but he's more of a guy you might play head-to-head on a back-to-back or something like that. Houston's side is frankly way more interesting in this ball game. Tari Eason only got 19 minutes off the bench, despite both Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. being out. But it didn't matter because Eason said, you know what, screw you guys. If you're only going to play me a few minutes because we're going to be trying to lose these ball games and in this one failing to do so, I'm going to go as wild as I've ever gone in my life. And Eason took 21 shots in 19 minutes, posted 20 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Oh, my goodness. So, there's 2 ways to look at this. Number one is, this is what we've talked about. We need the Rockets to move not only Eric Gordon, likely at the trade deadline, because he's probably gone, but also one other guy. KJ Martin would be my vote there. He's someone that we've seen kind of on the block. Jayshawn Tate would also be a possibility. They're not going to move Alperen Şengün. They're not going to move Jabari Smith Jr. They're not going to move Jalen Green. They're not going to move Kevin Porter Jr. So it's going to have to be Gordon and then whoever would slot in behind him where it kind of moves guys around on the board. If KJ Martin isn't there, Jayshawn Tate will pick up some of those minutes at small forward. But I think that at that point, they kind of won't have a choice because they've been trying to play Tari Eason at power forward almost exclusively to this point. But if Gordon and a small forward are each gone, it just doesn't give them that many options to not give Eason a couple more minutes. But we also need to keep our expectations in check. Unless Jabari Smith Jr. gets hurt, it's probably not going to be 30 minutes for Eason. It's probably going to be more like 25 or 26, up from 22. He'll get like 3 minutes at another spot on the floor. Small, but not zero. And the beauty of Eason, because, I get it. The minutes haven't really jumped, even with some guys out in the backcourt, but the opportunity has. And for the Rockets, at a certain point, other guys are going to start to get some days off. That'll happen. And they're the second worst team in basketball. So they've effectively pulled off the tank, although they have won 2 games in a row like a couple of idiots. I just don't think there's a whole lot to lose, basically. What do you have to lose? We're 1 week from the trade deadline today. If they don't move all these guys, and Eason is still stuck at 20, 21 minutes per ball game, fine, you move on. In 21 minutes, he's been like around top 140 this year, which is pretty damn good. And it's telling us that all we really need is like 4 additional minutes for him to be inside the top 100. And anything over that is kind of gravy, which you saw yesterday. Usage guys were out, so he got in there and he was like, screw this, I'm taking all the shots. The hell with all of you. So I'm in favor of an Eason stash because it's only a week at this point. I think I did the probability game on the show before where I was like, look, the probability that the right guys get out of his way is probably like 15 to 20%. It's not huge, but if they do, the chances of him hitting are enormous. So that's why, you multiply those together, you still get a relatively low probability, but that's why I like Eason. It's why I like Mark Williams as the other trade deadline stash, because if the guy in front of him gets out of the way, then it's basically a lock for value. And it's why Zach Collins is kind of in that next tier down. If the guy gets out of his way, which in that instance I think is more likely, he will have value. I just don't think it's quite as high. His is where higher likelihood that he gets more minutes than these other 2 dudes. But can he do as much with them? Nick's got some run for the Rockets, 8-7 with a couple of blocks. He was filling in for Jalen Green. In the starting 5, he's not a guy that I'm picking up in 12-teamers. Sacramento beat San Antonio. Not much on the Kings side. Malik Monk had another one of his heater games, but we've seen this enough times this year to know the second you pick him up and start him, that's probably not going to happen anymore. Keegan Murray slowed down. He'll be fine. He had a terrible shooting game. It's going to happen. The 7 rebounds actually makes me feel almost better than the other stuff because, it was a horrible ball game. There's no sugarcoating that. But this is the time of year where rookies continue to show that steady improvement. But he's not like a top 50 guy, so you're still going to get some clunkers every once in a while. This was one of them. Spurs side, Jakob Poeltl got 29 minutes. It's hard to know when they're going to take the bubble wrap off him for a ball game, but he's still a start. And to me, he's still a buy low. Trey Jones left early in this ball game. Jeremy Sohan left early in this ball game with a foot and a back injury, respectively. Neither one of them came back, which meant extra Malachi Branham and extra Josh Richardson. I'm a little reticent about diving in on the Branham thing. He would basically be the backup point guard if Trey Jones misses additional time. But then, the Spurs are a tanking dumpster fire at times, so it's hard to get an exact read on what's going to happen. If Sohan misses time, I think I probably would feel comfortable rolling with Josh Richardson, even if he comes off the bench in that regard, just because his fantasy game translates a little bit better. We know that by now with Jay Rich. If he gets the 25, 26 minutes, he can hit startable value. In a good case scenario here for us, if we're looking for a streamer, you'd want both of those guys to miss a game because then you're like, okay, well, Jay Rich is pretty much a lock. And then Branham, at that point, I think I would consider him maybe more so on the head-to-head side. I don't think I have the confidence to start him in Roto, even if a bunch of guys are out. Utah beat Toronto 131-128. Nice high-scoring game. That meant fun fantasy numbers for a lot of guys. Freddie VanVleet, huge triple-double in a loss. Gary Trent was pretty good. Scotty Barnes has been trending up. Precious Achiuwa slowed down a little bit. Missed a bunch of free throws. You know, it's part of the stuff that we're worried about with him, but he still had a steal and a block. And his field goal percent was good. So, you know, he's decidedly just above average. At least as far as this fill-in situation goes. And then on the Utah side, Kelly Olynyk, minutes up near 20 now. Those will slowly tick up towards starter level. If you can keep him in your IL slot, I still would. I mean, you can't make any other roster moves with that happening, but I would still probably try to do it, even if it kind of locks you for another game or two. Eventually, he's going to be playing starters minutes. They're ramping him up. They're just kind of taking it easy. In the meantime, that means a little extra for guys like Malik Beasley off the bench, who's really, again, more of a schedule play than anything else. I love what I'm seeing out of Mike Conley these days. He's trended back up in a big way. Free throw number is starting to get back where it needs to be and has been throughout his career. The assists have been good all year. I don't know where the blocks came from here. And then Walker Kessler had 7 blocks again, and he's just taken Jared Vanderbilt's job. There was a lot of fear that he was going to take Kelly Olynyk's spot, but no, he switched with Vanderbilt, as we said on the show, because those are the non-floor spacers on this team. There's only room for one. Olynyk can space the floor. And then not much to take away from the last ball game. Atlanta smashed Phoenix. Suns didn't play their regulars more than about 25 minutes here. This ball game was over early, so don't read too much into it, other than one footnote. And it was a little bit of news that I think might have slipped by last night on Cam Johnson. We had Gerald Bourguet on the show a couple weeks back when I think Chris Paul was getting ready to make his return. Gerald was tweeting last night some of the post-game chat with Cam Johnson, who said he knew he was going to be playing shorter stints because the team had kind of rushed him back from injury. They overdid it, and then they had to reel him in. This is actually a really unique and kind of rare occurrence where a team was like, crap, we played our guy way too much his first couple games back from being hurt. It was not our intent to give him almost starters level minutes. And then for all of us out in the fantasy basketball community, we were watching it and we were like, oh, well, like, okay, I guess Cam Johnson's just good to go now. And we're like, all right, well, that means top 75 production the rest of the way. But then the Suns kind of quietly were like, we didn't do a normal ramp up. We went high, and now we got to bring him back down. So they've swung the pendulum back the other way with Cam and said, look, you're going to play 17 minutes. You're going to play, what did you get yesterday? 15 minutes. That was a blowout. He probably would have had another 4 or 5 minutes at the end. But they're sort of re-ramping here. And it's extremely confusing if you didn't see or read the post-game notes. If I didn't read them, I would have just chalked it up to the blowout. And I'm still very pro Cam Johnson. But this is extremely interesting because it's given us a buy low opportunity. And I'm betting a lot of folks didn't see that stuff because it very much flew under the radar after a blowout loss. So no one was really paying attention to the post-game show. Everyone had kind of moved on to whatever's happening next in their lives. And then all of a sudden, that little tidbit snuck out. It's like, oh, by the way, we're re-ramping Cam Johnson. We've dialed him back down to almost a start over. I don't know what it would take to get him, but if there are teams out there, and I'm betting that there are, that looked at these last couple ball games and thought, oh, well, Cam Johnson, like, he's just not a main cog for them anymore. And they'd be mistaken in thinking so, but I could also understand why they might. We'll do some work on Twitter today. We'll figure out what it costs to acquire Cam Johnson for your fantasy team, what sort of player you might have to send out. But I think there's a really interesting buy low opportunity here if we take into account the fact that they're going to probably ramp him from now until, I don't know, All-Star break. Coming out of the break, he'll probably be back at about full minutes, but that gives us like a 2-week window here where he might not post gigantic fantasy lines and then probably will after that. Let's take a quick look ahead at what's coming up on the slightly larger Thursday card. That's fun. 7-gamer. Lakers at Pacers. LeBron is questionable, but he'll play. Lakers can't afford to lose any of these ball games. They're favored on the road, so, that generally means he's playing. Tyrese Halliburton likely to come back for Indiana, and I would venture to say that they kind of need him. The Pacers lost, I believe, 10 out of 11 games while Halliburton was out. I think. Didn't they beat Chicago on a back-to-back or something? Like their only win during that stretch? Interested to see if Halliburton's on a minutes cap here, because he did miss about 3 weeks. That's enough time for a lot of guys to need a minutes cap, but honest to goodness, I don't know. It's likely going to derail fantasy value for TJ McConnell. I mean, he'll be a schedule level play still, but he won't be a roto play anymore, and he won't be a rest of season play. I also think it takes a lot of sock out of Benedict Mathurin, who saw a nice usage bump. And for him, all of his value is tied up in getting extra shots and free throw attempts. And if that number comes down here, which I have to assume it will a little bit, then he falls back to where he was before, with my hope being that he's made small progress anyway. Miami, we're just kind of tracking what some of those fringier guys are doing. Kyle Lowry is testing me here. I'm holding, but it's not forever. Victor Oladipo, same general story. The Knicks, do we see more Isaiah Hartenstein in this ball game? He was good in their last one. Does he get the start? Is it still Jericho Sims? If it's still Jericho Sims, I'm not going to buy into it. I haven't really wanted to do anything with their centers. And then does Emmanuel quickly see any extra action? I would guess no against a team running Bam Adebayo out there, but you never know. Grizzlies playing the big Cavs. I think you'll see more Xavier Tillman in this one. Cleveland, nothing. Charlotte, not much. We're just sort of waiting to see if any sort of shoe will drop for them. Trades don't have to come at the deadline. Teams just try to squeeze out value by waiting until the last minute, seeing if somebody might budge off a position or another, offer comes in. Chicago, not much really. And I said before, I think Patrick Williams probably is kind of right in that now Jaden McDaniels range of like 95 to 110, and he'll probably just kind of hang out there the rest of the way. Pelicans, do any of the fringier guys hang on? They looked good in their last one. I'm still not sure that I buy they can keep it up, but we'll see. Dallas, nothing. We saw now with Luka back, no one's really consistent enough filling in for Christian Wood. It's Luka and the Luka heirs. Well, Dinwiddie's been above the cut line. Golden State, we talked about, they're going to have half their team missing. Does that allow Denver then to rest some people? Would be kind of the other half of that. Does Denver give some dudes the day off? I don't know. Clippers, they're pretty healthy. This should be a fun ball game. Milwaukee, too. Maybe we get Middleton up to 22 minutes in this one. As I've told you guys before, if I get word that Middleton's playing 24 minutes or more, I'm starting him. That's my cutoff for him. So that's what we're watching in this ball game, but, nothing else really. And that is the show, because I am completely gassed. I went 30 minutes anyway, and I have not yet dripped a booger on the microphone. I would say, again, please do follow me on Twitter at Dan Vespris. We do so much over there. Hit me up if you want to be a part of what we're doing here at Sports Ethos. An @ reply. My DMs are closed. I'm sad that I had to do that, but I did. They used to be open, but then I'd get 45 DMs every day, people asking fantasy questions, and that's kind of hard to follow if I'm trying to conduct business in there also. So hit me up with an @ reply on Twitter if you want to be a part of what we're doing here at Sports Ethos. Otherwise, I'll be back at you guys tomorrow. That'll be the Aaron Brewski Show. That's 10:15 live on YouTube tomorrow morning Pacific time. Myself, Aaron Brewski, will go over the biggest stories of the week. Have a great Thursday, everybody. Enjoy the slightly larger card. We'll see you soon. All right, YouTubers. You still get my post show here, so you don't have to sign off yet, but I am going to deal with my nose first. Put some questions in the chat room if you like. I know, smaller audience today. I haven't yelled at you guys very much. I didn't do a mid-show tweet. Maybe I will now. Here, we'll do a mid-show tweet right now. Q&A time. That's what I'm saying here. Q&A time. You've got 5 minutes if you want to get yours in the YouTube chat. Good video, huh? You guys listening to me dictate a tweet? Oh, so much in my sinuses. I'm cooking over here. All right, let's go to the player page. We'll get that going in the background. I'm going to shift my face up a little bit, I think. Nah, you know what? You guys can see it. At Dan Vespers, you guys can see the name. There's nobody watching today. So sad. You guys couldn't stick with me on Sick Dan Day. I deserve and expected more. Saw a tweet flash by about Austin Reeves, but it's just because he's on a podcast. All right, let's see what we got here. Scrolling up, what questions we got? Whew, a lot of them. Should I drop Royce O'Neal, Delon Wright, or Kelly Olynyk for Drew Eubanks? I would probably drop Royce O'Neal if Simmons is coming back. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that one. Oh, sorry, we got a conversation going here. Tarrant says, how important is it to trade away bad playoff schedule guys? 9 games in 3 weeks, for example. I would say not that important because guys just miss games. It's really nice to have a good playoff schedule. The only time I ever consider doing that is if I can get a similar type of player back. And there has to be a 2 or more game gap in what I receive. So, like, if you were trading away a player who had 9 games in 3 weeks in your playoffs, I would not target someone who had less than 11 because there's just too much weirdness around the fantasy playoffs. There has to be it has to be a big jump. One extra game, that can get wiped out in a hurry. Would you trade Michael Porter Jr. and Precious Achiuwa for Cam Johnson and Keegan Murray? Yeah, I think I would actually. I think MPJ and Cam Johnson are going to be pretty close the rest of the way, and I think Keegan beats Precious. Marcus Smart got dropped to the wire. Should I drop Achiuwa for him? Yes. Or Herb Jones. Probably Achiuwa. Yeah, I'm on board with that one. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier in the show. McDonald's fries, man, they're the bee's knees, man. Thought that was you, Jason. Again. Yeah. Snurgle is from the Lorax. I don't want to take credit for that one. That's a Dr. Seuss word. He snurgled. He snuffled. He snurgled and sniffed. And at some point, the Lorax had to send off his Swomy Swans to escape from the smog he'd smogged up around there. I've read a lot of Dr. Seuss books over the last 6 years. But you know what? It is a great word. I've been snurgling in this show. Thanks, dude. I'm hoping to feel better, too. I got to say, like, do I feel like dog do today? No, I think I actually felt worse yesterday. I'm more as someone who's had allergies and sinus problems throughout his life, I'm a little bit more used to dealing with stuff going on in my nose and behind my eyes, and I'm willing to just sort of drug myself. Here's a bottle of Afrin I have right next to me here at the desk. Afrin has been able to push me through this day. Anthony Simons, Gary Trent Jr., and Walker Kessler for Kevin Durant and Jordan Poole. Yeah, I mean, you package whatever you can to get Kevin Durant at this point, especially with him targeting a return in the next roughly 12 days or so. There was a report that surfaced yesterday saying he wanted to get in a game or two before the All-Star break just to kind of test himself out, make sure that he could participate in All-Star festivities. So he's targeting early next week. He wants to get a game or two in before the break. Hello, science teacher, man. You got the full Uncle Leo thing going on. I like that. They have just proposed me, Poole, Ayton, and Jonathan Isaac. Jordan Poole, DeAndre Ayton, and Jonathan Isaac for my Porzingis and Lauri Markkanen. It's a dynasty 20-team salary league. Whoa. I think I'd rather Porzingis and Markkanen. I know Porzingis costs a fortune, but Ayton's price just went up. And Jordan Poole got his extension. Yeah, I think I'm sticking with Porzingis and Markkanen. I just don't see how any of the guys on the other side can get anywhere near that top 20 range where both Porzingis and Markkanen are. Hope you feel better, Dan. Yeah, I'll be all right. I'll get there. Just hard to do a show when you can feel your words echoing inside your head. Is Chris Duarte an ad in 12 teamers? No, I don't think so. Especially with Halliburton back now, that's just going to put the crunch on everybody a little bit more. What's the best strategy to aim for the playoffs? Get the best players on teams that are trying to fight for playoff position, or best players overall, no matter the team's standings. So it's a really hard question. If you could, at the beginning of the year, somehow know exactly which teams are going to be fighting for a play-in spot, then they are the best players to have. But we don't really know that going into the season. Like, I would have assumed the Miami Heat would not be 2 games up on a play-in spot right now. I probably would have told you the Pacers would have been way behind a play-in spot. The Bulls, I thought, would have been better than they are. The Raptors. So, like, would I have said avoid Raptors because they play their guys too many minutes and then they get hurt? Yeah. I mean, if that's the way you're doing it, and then typically you're not super worried about them. So, like, it's really hard to know. You know, that's the thing. If you tried to pare down your draft list or your draft board at the beginning of the year based on teams you think are going to be fighting, you're going to be picking from like 3 or 4 teams, and it's too hard. The pool is too small at that point. If you're doing it now, it's a little bit of a different monster. You're probably going to have to give up more than you get back in that instance, because the team you're trading with is probably thinking about the very same things. Like if you have someone on the Blazers, I haven't looked up their playoff calendar, and everybody's got a different playoff 3-week stretch anyway, but let's say they have a good playoff week for you or a good schedule, everybody's going to want them, because Portland is very much going to be in a dogfight in those spots, trying to get through the play-in, trying to get above it. Lakers now, by the way, I've seen people that are like, oh, are they going to shut everybody down? No, they're going to shut everybody down. They're a game and a half out of the play-in. Or 2 out right now. They're 2 out with 30 games to go. They have a tough schedule for about the next month, and then their schedule is actually pretty light down the stretch. The Lakers, unless they're mathematically eliminated, they're not shutting people down. I don't think the Thunder are either. Pelicans, if they get Zion back, they'll start roaring up the board, but it might be too late for them to get out of this dogfight area. It's too hard is the short answer. You just can't do it perfectly. You could do like a little bit, pick at the edges, try to get a Blazer, try to get like Jeremy Grant when he comes back from concussion. Looking at the Eastern Conference, maybe you could target an Atlanta Hawk or something like that. But it's really hard to like roll it all together. Would you trade Josh Hart for Ben Simmons? No, I don't like Simmons at all. I don't think his team does anymore either. Don't forget to like the video, y'all. Yeah, don't forget to like the video, y'all. And subscribe while you're at it. I got an offer in my fantasy league. That's what I hope the offer is. If you got an offer in real life, I don't know if I can help you with that. I send DeMar DeRozan and DeAndre Ayton. I receive a Freddie VanVleet, Christian Wood, and Chris Middleton. Wow. It's pretty fair. You can deal with Christian Wood's kind of nebulous injury thing. That side probably wins because VanVleet has been equal to or better than DeRozan this year. Call those guys a wash. So then you're saying DeAndre Ayton for Christian Wood and Chris Middleton? Yeah, I would do that. I think I'd actually take the 3 side in this one. It's an overpay for DeAndre Ayton, basically. By the way, and if you're going to say there's a worry that the Raptors shut it down, the Bulls are equally concerning. They're a game and a half up on the Raptors, and both of those teams have been massive disappointments this year. Hey, when I see that, I think of the ladies' man. Hey, what's happening? You listening to the ladies' man? It's 3 a.m. in Chicago. I actually really liked that movie. Guilty admission, I think the ladies' man movie is frickin' hilarious. When he's interviewing for a job and the dude, the boss interviewing is like, it says here under hobbies, you enjoy debit. And he says, no, that's the butt. Comedy gold. I also play tennis. I don't know, Boyan or Bogdan. You guys are killing me with this. It's got to be, is it Bogdan? I'm going to assume it's Bogdan. Or Trey Jones and Eubanks. Or is it Boyan Bogdanovic? Points league. Boyan is a threat to be moved. It's not a guarantee that he gets moved. But not knowing which one. All right, let's say if this is Boyan, I probably stay on his side. And if it's Bogdan, I certainly take the other side. So there you go. Trey Jones or Bojan Bogdanovic. That's tough. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Where's Trey at right now? I haven't looked up his numbers in a while. Trey Jones is 97. Bojan Bogdanovic is 90. Yeah, I mean, they're like right in their neck. I figured they were pretty close to one another. Honestly, I think that one's a wash. Go with whatever stat set you need. Yes, add Eubanks if you have somebody you can cut. Now we got conversations happening here. I got to scan through them. You guys are great to help each other out. That's cool. Who's safe for rest of season, Hart or Ben Simmons? Oh, well, this is a question that we had earlier. I like Josh Hart. I really do think the Nets are kind of souring on Ben Simmons. Jacques Vaughn in one of his post games like, I expect people to be able to play. And then, Simmons didn't. I had Jabari Smith on my roster all season, my points league, but I ran out of arguments. Thinking about the fantasy playoffs, how would you order these players? Cam Johnson, Sadiq Bey. Wait. Bey, Sadiq, Jabari Eason. There's two of the same player there. So Cam Johnson, Sadiq Bey, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason. How would I rank these orders for the playoffs? Cam Johnson is a cut above the rest of them. I don't know what's going to happen in Detroit if they move some guys out and Bey remains. He probably becomes the very safe number 2. Jabari Smith Jr. over Tari Eason just because his minutes are more secured. So unfortunately, Eason is at the bottom here, even though he's an interesting trade deadline stash. He's also the least guaranteed to be doing stuff. Yep, you're right, Beans. Happy Austin Reeves reevaluation day. Lakers could really use him. He's so good for what they do. Floor spacer, slasher, defender. He's like the prototypical guy you want to put around LeBron and AD. He's not quite as good offensively as some of the guys. He's not good as offensively as, say, Lonnie Walker, but he's so much better on defense. There's just that well-roundedness to him. I hope the Lakers get him back. He's a good fit. What do we got here? What is Melton's value now? He's tough to start in Roto day to day at this point. Head to head, he's a guy I'm holding because guys miss games for Philly. And anytime even one guy is out, any single player in the starting 5 gets hurt, besides him, I guess, or the other 4, he's the guy that bumps up. So I'm holding him head to head. Roto, probably on my bench until I can find a spot to slot him in there. Appreciate the no yell today. I don't know what I usually yell about. Well. What time does the show usually start? I'm trying to get this thing going around 9 a.m. Pacific time these days. I get back from dropping my kids off at school at about 8:20. I walk the dog. That takes about 15 minutes. And then I got to set everything up over here and make sure nothing happened overnight that I missed. That takes about another 20 or so. So around 9 a.m. With Brew on Fridays, it'll probably be a little bit later than that. His kid's preschool starts at 9, where my kid's preschool, I do drop off at 8, or my wife and I trade off which kid we take each day. So I'm home by 8:20 to get ready. He's home by 9:20 to get ready. So those shows with Brew will probably be closer to 10 instead of 9. But the other 4 days of the week, I'm trying to go around 9 a.m. Pacific. Well, that's what I've done this week, at least. You ever use a nasal flush? If so, how was it? I have not, actually. I've been told to do it. We had to do it on one of our kids, Asher, our older one, because he got like 4 colds in a row. And so his sinuses never sort of stopped being inflamed. And he got an ear infection like 2 or 3 times in a row from his cold. So they were like, look, you got to nasal flush it. You got to shoot Flonase up there for the kid. Just you got to open up the passages to stop these ear infections. He hated it, not surprisingly. I know people that swear by it. Good friend of mine, actually my girlfriend in high school, she was an opera singer and she swore by it. Now she's a preschool teacher. It has colds all the time and continues to swear by it. But then I also read on, if you don't take proper care of those things, you can actually give yourself bacterial infections in your sinuses and up through your brain passages. So I'll pass. Dirty Steve, Ty Jerome, one night stand on the Warriors if everybody sits also. Good call. You're giving away your dark horse stream of the day, though, Steve. Cam Johnson or DeAnthony Melton? I like Cam here, actually. I think as he gets ramped up, he beats him. He doesn't need anybody to be hurt in front of him to hit that top gear. I think if everybody's healthy on both the Suns and the Sixers, Cam Johnson is top 75 and Melton's more like top 100. If one player is out on the Sixers, Melton jumps to as high as like 50 range, and then that's where he would beat him. But if everybody's healthy, I lean Cam. Sorry, we're getting towards the end here. Dan's running out of gas. What are your thoughts on the Pistons' new rotation with Isaiah Stewart eating some of Duran's minutes off the bench and Alec Burks making Hayes a droppable dude? Do you think they go back to what it was? Yeah, I think there's Detroit's going to move some veteran at the deadline. Probably Alec Burks, maybe Bojan Bogdanovic. And I'm not that worried about the Duran Burks thing. There's a tank element to this. And Jalen Duran's awesome, and they're probably just trying to make sure that he doesn't run out of gas and get hurt because, rookie walls and all that good stuff. I still like Duran. I wouldn't touch Stewart with a 10-foot pole. I am holding Burks until the deadline, and then we'll see what happens after that. Josh Hart is on the wire in an 11-team league. Which of those would you prioritize? I prefer Marcus Smart when he's healthy. Obviously, right now, I prefer Josh Hart because he's healthy. Hi, Dan. Joined the show late. Sorry if you already mentioned it. Tari Eason, Mark Williams, Larry Nance, and Zach Collins pick 2 to hold to the trade deadline. I'll go Eason and Williams, even though Collins is the most likely. I'll say this again. I hope everybody's listening here at the end of the show. Zach Collins is the most likely to get a bump because I think Jakob Poeltl is the most likely player to get moved of the guys in the way here. So for Eason, it's KJ Martin. We got to get a forward out of the way. For Williams and Eason, you probably need Eric Gordon moved also. Like, there just needs to be opportunity and there needs to be front court, something going on. For Williams, need Plumlee moved, and the Hornets are just dumb enough to hold on to him. Nance is just an up and down thing. I don't think it has anything to do with players in the deadline. And then Collins, it's Poeltl. So I think Poeltl gets moved, but Zach Collins profiles more as like a 90 range guy when he's at full tilt. Mark Williams has top 60 upside if he's playing starters minutes. Eason is that same thing, but he probably never gets full 30. Tari Eason in 30 minutes a game is a top 50, top 40 kind of guy. I don't think he's getting that high. 25 minutes for Eason would get him inside that like 75 to 100 range. So Mark Williams is my favorite. Eason and Collins are behind him. I've gone back and forth. I picked up Collins in a few leagues and I dropped him for Williams, and I've been like shuffling guys a little bit there, but I think I would go Williams and then below him Eason, and then like right below him Collins, who has the lower upside but has the higher likelihood of getting there. Is Kevin Huerter still a hold? Probably. I mean, if you dropped him, I don't think you'd regret it all that much. I thought I can't. Oh, I see. This highlight never quite went away. Where's Huerter fallen off to now? Is he still inside the top 100? Yeah, there he is at 88. He's right in there with like the Jaden McDaniels, as we just talked about, and the Patrick Williamses. Yeah, he's a tough hold, but he's probably a hold. Jalen Suggs and 2 first-round picks, likely picks 4 and 7 for Şengün in a keeper league. Take it or reject. Wow. It kind of depends on what guys typically go in the first round of your keeper league. Is this a keeper league where, everybody has 3 keepers and you can keep any of them in any round? So like if you drafted someone in the 12th round, you keep them in the 10th or something like that. Or is this a whatever you keep becomes your first, then your second, then your third round thing? So like, is a first round pick actually a 4th rounder next year or a 5th rounder or something like that? This is an impossible question to answer without knowing the keeper league rules that you're in. If, let's say hypothetically, the first round picks are like 4th rounders or something like that, I would probably take it. I think Şengün probably hovers around the 4th round. So if you're going to get 2 4th rounders for 1 4th rounder, then I probably do it. I don't really care about Jalen Suggs. I think he's droppable. But if it's the other way around where, first rounders might be first rounders, then hell yeah. So you just have to gauge what kind of first rounder you're going to be. I think Şengün profiles as like a 40 to 60 range guy, given he has a lot of really cool stuff he does. He has a really bad free throw stroke, and his field goal percent is not going to be 65 all season long. So, 40-ish range is reasonable for him. But if your keepers here are guys that you expect to be near 40, and you can get 2 of those for the price of 1, that's the way you do it. What's your go-to cold remedy? I love some homemade chicken soup. Hope you feel better, Dan. This will be the last question of the day. I am Jewish. You guys know that about me. So if someone could throw some matzo ball soup in my direction, we call that Jewish penicillin. However, I'm someone who needs to do a lot of talking when I'm sick. When I'm not sick, I do it too. So I mostly just drug the crap out of myself. So I've got cough drops right here next to my desk. You already saw the Afrin over here. Advil, Tylenol, Afrin, cough drops. If it gets really bad, maybe Sudafed. And try not to float off into the abyss. Oh, yeah, good question, man. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody. I don't know what the hell Punxsutawney Phil did this morning. I went to Punxsutawney. I don't know what that has to do with anything. My wife and I flew to a friend's wedding in Michigan, and then we had rented a car and drove from Michigan to New York to see some friends of ours that live out there. And we stopped in Punxsutawney on the way. We stayed at a B&B, not an Airbnb. This was before they were big. This was just a regular B&B. And we drove like through the night, and there was this massive horse that blocked the road getting into Punxsutawney in the middle of the night. And you couldn't see it because the road kind of did this undulating thing. So we came up over a hill, and then at the coming over the hill, there's this massive horse in the middle of the night that just stood there and stared at our automobile. And we've referred to that since then as the demon horse of Punxsutawney. We did not go there on Groundhog Day. They don't have any rooms available. Those book out a full year in advance. But we did go to the site and see all the little memorabilia, walk around the town and stuff like that. Awesome movie. And anytime you can walk up to somebody and scream, Ned Ryerson, I strongly suggest you do it. What's Suggs' value in Dynasty? Not that high. Orlando has a butt ton of guards. They're going to have to clear somebody out. Fultz or Cole Anthony in particular would be the two that I'd look at. But one of those guys kind of has to be gone for Suggs to have a clearer path. Orlando has way too many young guys. They don't know what the hell they want to do with them yet. At some point, it's going to go up. Suggs will get a chance somewhere because he's a relatively early pull. But you're going to sit on him for a while. Rookie keeper draft. Okay, so it's a dynasty league, effectively. You guys know me. I don't much care for rookies. If you're in a rebuild, you do it, because your pick number 1 and pick number 7 could, you maybe both of them clear what Şengün hits. If you're trying to compete in like the next, I don't know, 2 to 3 years, then I think you pass on that previous question. That was this question here. Because I don't think Suggs is going to do anything for a couple of years. Those firsts probably don't do anything for another 2 or 3 years. Şengün will be good now. So this makes sense if you're in rebuild, basically. But you got to be ready for a deep rebuild. Yep, matzo ball soup is freaking amazing. Find your nearest Jewish deli, get some, tell them Dan sent you, and they'll be like, who the is Dan? Be like, Dan, he's this Jewish guy who tells me about fantasy sports. They'll be like, oh, still don't know him. All right, everybody, have a great day. Tomorrow, 10:15 with Brew, 10:15 Pacific time. We'll see you then.